Hey everyone, we're going to explode this ship using soft cloth physics. So I'll start by selecting my ship, and I need to set it up for physics. When you get a ship, make sure it has parts that will actually break apart. So I just tested several ships until I found one I like. If it looks like it has a lot of parts, then it's probably going to work. If it's kind of a slick one-piece deal, it's just going to kind of shake a little bit and won't really work. Alright, so setting up my physics. First, of course, I need to activate the physics. I'm going to uncheck the object gravity box so it doesn't fall away from my view. And then I need to set soft cloth. Okay, so if you have a model that has multiple materials, you're going to have to set the weight maps. But if you just have one material, it just defaults to a plain white weight map. Alright, so now I'm going to come down here into the properties section. The only thing I need to worry about here is the damping. You can play with the other stuff to see what the effects do. You know, you can probably make it flex more and stuff spread out more and stuff like that. But since it's kind of metal, I want it to remain kind of solid and just bend a little bit. So I leave everything the way it is except for the damping, which I find down at 10 or 0.05 is better. So I'm going to actually set that now to 0.05. And that'll vary from ship to ship probably as well. But what that will do is let stuff blow apart pretty well, but it will also slow down and stop eventually. So, you know, won't be flying off the screen. Sometimes you want everything flying off the screen. In that case, you would set this down to 0. Alright, so our ship is ready. And at this point, we want something to hit it with to, you know, cause the rupture or explosion. So I will add something to my scene. Add a sphere to my scene, and I'm going to go with this. You may need to scale it bigger if you imported a bigger model, but I actually brought in a relatively small model because, you know, is using it for a space scene. You don't need it especially large. Although sometimes you might want it bigger, like if you're doing a more localized explosion on it or something and you need to get in close. Alright, so my basher here, let's pull it out here. I'm going to set it up as well. So in my physics, I'm going to activate physics for it, and I want it to be rigid body. I want it to be kinematic so I can animate it. And then I want the bounding shape to actually be the shape I chose, which is a sphere. The box will work as well. The other shapes don't work near as well as the box and the sphere. So anyway, now it's ready for bashing. So it usually works best if you kind of hit from the side. So I'm going to start my bash from out here. And of course you can do this anywhere on the timeline, but I usually just do it initially and then I bake the animation and move it to where I need on the timeline, move the clip to where I need. Because it's soft cloth, you won't be able to embed the animation into the prop, unfortunately. But so it's kind of, you do it in the scene you need it in, but you can move it on the timeline if you need to by, you know, recording the clip with the, you know, bake cloth in your project panel. Alright, so at this point, I'm going to then move my cursor forward. Let's say, how about 150? Don't want it to go too fast because you want it to have some, you know, reasonable, you know, you want it to look nice. If it goes really fast, it just doesn't look grand and epic and huge. So that's where I'm going to move my basher to. And then so I'm going to rewind that. And I will go ahead and play that. And it looks like it didn't hold my gravity being turned off for some reason. So I'm going to go back here and somehow it turned back on. So I'm going to uncheck that again, make sure it's unchecked. Okay, that's still soft cloth, so that's all good. It's still at 0.05. Don't know why it did that. All right, so here we go. And it hits the pieces and they fly out, and see how they slow down and, stop eventually, or at least most of them do. So that to me actually looks pretty good. Your other option, of course, is to set the damping to 0 and then give it a bash. And you'll notice the pieces just fly off continuously. There's nothing that's going to stop them in this case. Away they go. And conversely, like if you're doing a car crash or something, you would actually set this up really high. So it goes in 10 bump increments. So if you do it all the way maxed out at 100, what you'll get is just a pushing. So like if you're doing a car crash or something, that might be perfect. Or if you're just, having the ship bump into an asteroid and get damaged or something like that. So, and you can do a little less too. Say we did 40. And stuff will fly out just a little bit, but not much. So, anyway, I think for my particular needs, 0.05 works pretty well. But I'm actually going to try 0.01 and see what that does. So it's just extremely small amount of damping. But see, even that works pretty well because everything is slowing down now, instead of going completely off screen, which is something you might want because you might want it to kind of stay on screen more as you're continuing to animate if you've baked the animation clip. So somewhere in there you can kind of choose your own setting. All right, so now what I would do is I would go into my project panel and select the bake animation for the cloth, and then when I record it, this is all recording a motion clip now, and I'll be able to bake it and disable my physics. I'm going to wait a while for it. All right, that's good enough. Okay, so now I have this motion clip here, of what I wanted, and I can, animate it in the timeline, scrub through it in the timeline. And so I'm not going to need the actual basher anymore. Let's go ahead and turn physics off. And just to show this really working, I'll turn off all the physics, both soft and hard. And then I'll go back to the beginning. And it looks like it's still bashing it, but it's actually not. So at this point, we can actually remove the animation from this guy so he doesn't come and hit it anymore. And then if we play it, is still going. So this is extremely helpful to do because now I can move the clip on the timeline to a later point in time on the timeline because I really don't want it blowing up at frame 1 on the timeline. I'm going to want it somewhere else later in my scene. Unfortunately, you cannot collect clip and add it as a perform because it's soft cloth and it won't let you. But I can move it later in the scene, so I can put it where I need it to explode in my scene. So now when I play it, I'm waiting. So I could be animating along and cruising along at this point. All kinds of stuff happening. And then finally, when it gets all the way up to where you put it on the timeline, then it can explode. All right, hope that's helpful.